After mentioning a couple more individuals whom Allah had a close relationship, he asked me, like a whip cracking through the air, and you had to ask the Khalifa of Islam if Allah speaks to him? If Caliphate is real, then the promised Messiah is real. And if he is real, then our beloved Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is real. And if he is real, then Allah is real. At that exact moment, my heart had pledged its allegiance to Islam Ahmadiyyat. I'd like to share with you my story to a life devotee. My aunt felt happy to learn that Islam teaches equality amongst men and women, contrary to her long-held belief that Islam suppressed women's rights. By the end of Ramadan, I had read the whole Quran, and I was very pleased with all that I had learned. In December 2007, I returned to my family in Hamilton and told them the news. I was given freedom to worship my God without any difficulties. Alhamdulillah. I told the news to my first Muslim friend. He told me to come to his mosque and do Shahada, and that the mosque I had first went to belonged to the Shiite, and so I was to attend his mosque and become a Sunni. I told him I only wanted to be a Muslim, and that the different kinds of Muslims were none of my concern. After a few months, I started working for my stepdad at his restaurant. Near there was a mosque, a short walking distance. So I asked to take leave for 30 minutes to attend Friday prayer at the mosque, and my stepdad allowed me up to 4 hours off for this purpose. I went to the mosque and sat in the corner and listened to the sermon. This became my weekly ritual. A few months later, after Joma, a very kind and sweet man approached me. He asked if I knew what sect this mosque belonged to. I knew it wasn't Sunni or Shiite, but I replied that the different kinds of Muslims are none of my concern. He said that this sect is special and had a very special leader named Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, on whom be peace. He told me that this special leader is the promised Messiah whose coming was foretold by all religions. I was so excited to hear this news that I asked him, "Does everybody know this?" He said that every Ahmadi is to convey the news of the promised Messiah's arrival so that the world may know him. Right then, I offered 2 nawafil for guidance from Allah. During this prayer, a strong feeling of being late for something had begun to make me very anxious. I finished my prayer and told him I was eager to join the community right then. However, he advised me to learn a little more about Ahmadiyyat before making my decision. To me, that was not necessary. After the feeling I had just felt, I only wanted to be among those who had believed. After reading about the life of the promised Messiah, on whom be peace, I met with 2 very special Ahmadis to me, Ata'a Wahid Lahey and Ansar Raza. They gave me the book Ahmadiyyat, The True Islam, and a documentary about marriage and relationships in Islam. That night, on September 16, 2008, I signed my bay'at.
Nara Takbir! Nara Takbir! Islam Ahmadiyyat! Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa! Ghulam Ahmad ki! Khilafat-e Ahmadiyya! Nara Takbir!
Shortly after signing my bay'at form, I expressed my interest in becoming a life devotee, but I was advised to ponder more about my decision, and in the meantime, study the teachings of the promised Messiah. Now I would like to fast forward 5 years to my blessed meeting with our beloved Khalifatul Masih, may Allah be his helper, in February 2013. I had arrived in UK after 11 a.m. for a layover on my way back to Canada from attending the 100-year Jalsa in Bangladesh. I went to Fazl Masjid to see if I could meet with our beloved Huzuri Anwar. They informed me that this is not the usual time to meet with him, so I requested they give him a letter that my 3-year-old daughter had wrote to Huzuri Anwar. Upon receiving the letter, I was invited to meet the Khalifatul Masih. My first question was a very bold question. I asked Huzuri Anwar if Allah speaks to him. He told me that we usually don't ask this from people. I said okay, and I lowered my head. And again I repeated my question. Huzur, does Allah speak to you? This time he answered me by stating that if Allah tells him something to announce to the community, it would likely be in his Friday sermons, and that I should listen closely to his Friday sermons. He then informed me about his advice to the community that every Ahmadi in the world should pray for Ahmadis in Pakistan regarding their persecution. I asked him, was this inspired by Allah? And he answered in the affirmative. I then asked Huzuri Anwar if Allah inspired him to travel the world, advising the various nations to lean towards peace and work together to establish justice in the respective nations. He answered in the affirmative. Now fast forward another 5 years to my trip to UK this January with the new Ahmadis organized by Qudama Ahmadiyyat Canada. My younger brother Derek and I were both blessed to attend this trip together. During this trip, I met with a Waqf Zindagi who was a journalist with MTA International. As we were walking, I narrated the story about my meeting with Huzuri Anwar, in which I had asked him if Allah speaks to him. He stopped and turned to me and asked if I had heard stories of some members whom Allah had a close relationship with. He asked if I heard about Hazrat Maulvi Ghulam Rasul Raziki Sahib, may Allah be pleased with him. I responded very happily that I had heard his stories, and that he had asked if I heard the stories regarding the close relationship of that of Bashir Orchard Sahib, may Allah have mercy on him. I responded again happily that I had heard his stories. After mentioning a couple more individuals whom Allah had a close relationship, he asked me, like a whip cracking through the air, and you had to ask the Khalifa of Islam if Allah speaks to him? Instantly, I had realized in that moment that I had not truly understood the status of the Khalifatul Masih. I used to narrate this story of my meeting with Huzuri Anwar, in which I asked him if Allah speaks to him, with great pride. Now I was ashamed to express my ignorance of his divine appointment as Khalifatul Masih. During the rest of the trip, I begged Allah for forgiveness of my ignorance and for narrating my meeting with Huzuri Anwar with such pride. I returned home and my heart could not stop regretting how little I understood about Khilafat. Then one night, while watching Huzuri Anwar on MTA, a powerful thought came into my mind, that Khilafat is real. So I asked myself, if Khilafat is real, then the promised Messiah is real. And if he is real, then our beloved Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is real. And if he is real, then Allah is real. At that exact moment, my heart had pledged its allegiance to Islam Ahmadiyyat. I then wrote to my beloved Amir al-Mu'mineen, and I was humbled that he accepted me as a Waqf Zindagi. I now humbly request that my dear brothers and sisters of this blessed Jamaat ask the answerer of prayers, the bestower of faith, to increase our understanding of Khilafat and to increase our devotion to the service of Islam Ahmadiyyat. May Allah enable myself and all of you to fulfill our bat that we have taken at the hand of our beloved Khalifatul Masih. Ameen.